welcome to another edition of Spotlight in Politics. I have a special guest today, Bruce Crochetiere, who is a Republican running for Congress in the 1st District. And Bruce, welcome to Spotlight on Politics.
Nice to meet you, Al.
You too. So generally what I do is, this is your time. I'd like you to talk about your background, why you're running, and what you hope to accomplish. So it's all up to you.
Oh, we could be here all day then. So,
well, we hope not all day.
Yes, name is Bruce Crochetiere. I live in Hampton Falls, New Hampshire. How I started is my grandfather came from Canada in 1922. He worked as a leather cutter in the shoe mills of Lawrence, and I learned, sacrifice, hard work, honesty, humbleness, and throughout my life, I used those to kind of live by my creed. I went to college in University of Lowell, and I decided to follow my dream and start a company. So my wife and I saved nearly every penny we had. We mortgaged our home, and in 1998, we risked it all and started a company called Focus Technology Solutions. The past 20 years, I'm very proud to have employed hundreds of employees, and with my wife, grow our company into a $50 million information technology and services solutions company, where I am chairman and founder of. Through all that hard work, I've been in a position to give back to my community and state. So the story goes is I did get cancer about 4 years ago. And during that time, I realized what was real important to me was not being in a business atmosphere in the weeds trying to grow a business, but my family was very important. So I decided to build a management team to take the company to the next level. And having doing that, I was able to put myself in a situation where I could give back. After talking to a few people earlier this year, the opportunity to run for Congress came out. And here I am next to you, Al, and I'm running for Congress.
Okay, so you decided you want to give back, and that's why you decided to run for Congress.
Yes.
Okay, so what would be your goals if you were elected to Congress?
So being a business person, what's resonating with the constituents right now is the fact that I'm an outsider. I'm a person that has done it in business, a proven track record of success in the real world, a non-politician, far from it, and I'm able to give back, and it's resonating. So the exciting part to it is people like that fact. They want non-political people in the process. And the current administration in Washington has paved the way for somebody like myself to go in and make a difference. Now, I truly do want to make a difference. I think that people in Washington are taking full advantage of their spot there, and I think we need term limits and enable people like myself to go in and really shake it up. Being very practical in business, having fiscal responsibility, I think we really need to give the message to Washington that we need to change. And I think I'm the person to make that change, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm running.
That's a pretty good reason for you to run.
I like that.
So, if you were elected as the congressman from New Hampshire, what would you be looking for as far as your constituents in New Hampshire and how you would represent them, and what would be of interest?
So I do a lot of conversations out there, talk to a lot of people, and there's three main areas that are resonating. And first and foremost is we need to empower business. I mean, our state, small business is the backbone of the Granite State, and there isn't a tax, a personal tax, but there is a business tax, which is a business BPT tax and the BE tax that I do pay as a company owner in the state. And we need to keep that healthy. 30% of our revenue comes from small business. So what we got to do is keep regulations out of them, and we need to keep tax reform going at a federal level so businesses can kind of move forward and reinvest in their companies. So small business and keeping them healthy is really important to our state. Also important is healthcare is extremely costly to individuals and organizations, company owners. In my company, I chose to pay 75% of my company's healthcare because I believe in taking care of my own, but it's not sustainable. We need free market-based solutions that empower consumers, lower costs, and increase the quality of care. And the third aspect that I'm very passionate about is education. We need to empower the individual for education. And it doesn't have to be a four-year college. We can get through with skills-based. I think the concern that I have speaking to a lot of people, and I think you're agreeing with me, is it's very costly for our children to go to school today, not only for the kids, but also for parents, to the tune where there's so much debt that the federal government loans are a higher yield interest rate, like 9%. So we have kids coming out of colleges unable to sustain the cost of their student loans, and they're deferring on them. And that's not good first for the student coming out of college, but even worse, there's this huge debt that our country is now looking at of student loans of $1.6 trillion that I'm afraid of could possibly be a bubble. So we need to keep our youth healthy regards to their choice of schools. Now, mind you, New Hampshire's got a great community college system, and I really would like to get kids passionate early in their life to find out what they're good at and give them the options of not having to go to four-year schools, but find some skills that they might like that they can go through a community college level without having debt and having businesses pay for their education up and through college. I think the American dream is now becoming less debt to home ownership as quickly as possible versus having a lot of debt and jobs that doesn't sustain the cost structure of loans.
Well, it's pretty interesting because I was reading an article the other day, and the title of it was, "Why Go to College?" And the thrust of the whole article was, you don't really need to go to college. Matter of fact, I think the person that wrote it decided not to go to college and be a mechanic. They make good money.
Mm-hmm.
Plumbers and electricians make good money, and it's getting to the point where if everybody has a college education, yeah, maybe you might make a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then again, you might not get hired anywhere either.
I truly believe I think we got to look at what the American dream is, and the American dream is, in my eyes, is to be solid of who you are as a person. I think what's happening with media, what's happening with our children, and what's happening with the devices they see every day, is they're getting confused. Everybody's getting confused. There's too much information. So I say, everybody keep it simple. Let's bring it back to who you are. Everybody was born beautiful and brilliant, and let's find out what that is within each person and grow that. And the stigma of going to college, whereas our parents have told us that you need a better education than the previous generation, I think is not true. I think we need to be happy with what we are, with who we are. And I think, I'll go back to my wife's a hairdresser. You know, her trade enabled her to support our family as I struggled through building the business. Now I have a doctorate, so it works. I mean, my wife, her trade enabled me to do my dreams, and I think we have to take a look at all that and the stigma of having to go to a four-year school, and that's what the American dream is. I don't believe that's what it is. I believe what it is to be sustaining with yourself and be in a situation where you're not riddled with debt, and to get that home ownership as quickly as possible, because, I mean, I think we're seeing it with people now that have to work in their later years because they have to sustain the cost structure. So I'm right with you with that.
So, what do you think, and what would be your solution to affordable health care? Big question.
Right. So, at my company, so here's how my scenario is. So, a family plan at my company is $22,000 a year, and I pay the lion's share of that amount. It's unsustainable. Small businesses can't do it. We have to go to free market-based solutions. It's simple as that. You have to keep it to the individual's choice. You can't do a top-down. So it has to be a free market base where everybody fights for it. And that's the only way to do it. And when I'm in Washington, that's what I'll lobby against. The other thing, too, as a cancer survivor, what's important to me, too, is pre-screening. Extremely important. We have to incorporate that into our plans as well, because the cost associated with somebody that has later stage cancer can be nullified with finding it out early. Cancer is treatable if you find it early enough. So I'd like to incorporate that into the plan, but a free market-based solution is where it's at.
You know, it's so interesting because years ago I said, you know, why doesn't Congress pass a law allowing you to buy health insurance across state lines.
Right.
The competition, getting back to business,
Right.
if a lot of people buy from a healthcare provider in the other state, ooh, we better lower our rates if we want to get some of these people back. So it's free market, just exactly what you were talking about. I will never understand why they never did that as an opening. You know?
I'm totally believe. Yes. Yeah. So businesses operate in innovative free market systems. I'm a firm believer of the 10th Amendment regards to states' rights. I'm a firm believer of the individual rights, and that's how my conservatism is moving forward. In a business standpoint at my company, I can't survive unless I have a competitive product in a competitive situation. So it has to be across the board. Now, there are situations where we should have the government, have some sort of say-so, but the less, the better. The more free market, the more individual rights, if you will, the better it all will be. But people that are in power don't like that. And that's the change that we need to make in Washington. And that's the change that I'm used to. And again, the highway that's paved for me to go at, Washington doesn't like that. They don't like the fact that I can go make changes, but the people do. The constituents in the 1st District want change. They want to continue with change. They want somebody who has proven and done that. An outsider, I represent all those things, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. It's not for monetary gain, it's to make a difference. And I think that's what we need more of, moving forward.
Okay, any other hot button items that you have given some thought to that you would change in Washington if you got there?
So in my company, it's always changing in high tech, so it's always moving. And this is a great analogy with what I would like to do in Washington. And if the company is going in the right direction, or if the country is going in the right direction, change is good, innovation is good. But what happens, certain people don't like change, and they're resistant to the change. So what we need to do, in a business standpoint, businesses only survive if they change and adapt. And the people that don't like it, leave.
Exactly.
We need to do the exact same thing with the federal government. We need to create change, keep pushing change, and the people that don't like it will leave. And that's my analogy in regards to that. We have to continue with change, and we have to make, it's the people's voice. And people are polarized right now. They don't like the right and the left. They want to see real change and real movement. And that's what I do represent. And that's why I'm running.
And a good example of what you're talking about is there are certain states that are so high tax that people are leaving in droves, you know? Let's face it, people need money to live. You just can't tax them to death, or they will leave and go somewhere else. Just like you said, free market economy, if you don't have a good product and it doesn't sell, your company's finished.
And I'm going to take it to another. I just was thinking about another issue here too, in regards is our state. So this is one of the greatest states this country has ever seen. It's fantastic. It's free. But we have a situation where our youth are not staying here, and they're leaving. And we need to retain our youth in the state and make it so they don't leave. So there could be a situation in 10, 20 years that we're not going to have the appropriate working force to sustain the state. So I'm really excited about having youth stay here, educating them, low loans, and being very competitive. And I will say, in my industry in technology, years ago, 30 years ago, a gentleman named Craig Benson started a company called Cabletron. Cabletron is a technology company that had all facets of business in it. They had manufacturing, sales, high-tech sales, innovation. We need that back in our state. We need that type of employment in the state. And I think that will sustain us over a period of time and create an atmosphere that younger people will understand that this is a great place to live, because it is a great state to live in. But it's only as good as we're a free state. We don't tax people. So we have to keep our companies healthy. We have to keep our real estate healthy, where we're getting our income from. We got to keep the tourism healthy. And we can't lose sight of all that. And it's important to get other industries here, if you will. So I'm a proponent of getting other companies to come here and help and grow the workforce.
I had a crazy idea years ago too that would probably never happen, and I've always known we had a shortage of doctors and nurses and everything, and I said, why don't we establish like service academies like West Point and Annapolis and everything, and have these people, give them a free education, doctors and nurses, and then, okay, you get out, you owe us 6 years of service, and we'll put you in a community place where you can work. And you know, maybe it's a weird idea, maybe it isn't, but.
Well, I think I think what we should do, at least when we find I'm up in Meredith, and out of the blue they had a nice dog, and when you walk and you see a nice dog, but this gentleman was extremely passionate about what he does. He's a teacher for automotive. And he can't understand why he can't have enough students come through his scenario, because he says, you know what, I can get them a job at BMW with skill sets in computing and a work environment that's pristine and all the healthcare. So we have to kind of, again, get that stigma away, but I want to take it to another level. If we get kids jazzed and excited early on in high school, let's provide them that opportunity. Well, let's help them get through a process or a process of education that the state picks up. But say, hey, you know what, you're here to stay, but show them that environment to stay here. And I think that would be fantastic and novel. And I do know it is a lot of talk. I mean, in regards to that is finding a way that the state can help children go through the high school process, through the community college process, through the 4-year school process, but the state helping that way. And I think that is fantastic. And I think you will get loyalty, and just like you're saying, I don't think it's Annapolis or West Point, but I think it's the same idea in a skill level based. But it's people that are going to be thriving, low debt, happy people, and that's what we need. I mean, we need more of that, and getting away from this illusion of happiness is to be debt-ridden in 4-year schools. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, and you know, it costs a lot to be a doctor,
Right.
and then of course to set up a practice and everything, and then you're pretty hamstrung for years financially, you know. So why don't we have, if not like a 4-year school that we have, help them financially, you know, some way, and that's something that Congress could do.
Well, there's a surplus in our state right now. We should have a discussion with Governor Sununu in regards to that, so we could earmark something.
See,
for
that's
that.
your job.
That would be my job.
That's your job.
That's right.
So, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about foreign policy. What do you think about that?
I agree with our president in regards to being strong with our adversaries, and we have to continue with that strength. My stance on our military, which, you know, the sacrifices our military and our veterans are incredibly gifted, that gives us what we have in this world. But nonetheless, I think what we should look at is having the most innovative, technological, advanced military the world has ever seen. And I say that because in my industry, cybersecurity is becoming a huge threat. And I don't think it's out there enough that we do not take it more seriously. So I think our future wars are going to be fought in cyber world. And I know that we are the strongest nation with boots on the ground, but we have to start thinking in the future. And one avenue that's scary to me is our grid. So, yeah, so I mean, you don't need billions of dollars or trillions of dollars to have this type of a war force. You can be in Russia, you can be in North Korea, you can be anywhere, and you can sit in a computer and you can hack. So
Right.
it could be just one individual that is really bright, that has the resources to go do it. And that's what's scary about the future. And we need to be very adverse to that situation. And the only way to do that, in my eyes, is to have another department in the military. Right now, this U.S. Security Com that is supporting all our military factions. We need a separate force that just deals with cybersecurity, because it's going to be a serious, serious issue moving forward.
It already is, because just the other day there was a notice out from the FBI, reboot your routers,
Right.
because of a foreign cyber attack. So, It's there right now.
In the business community, they're holding us hostage. So it's terrorism. You have to be in the, so you got to think of it as a terrorist act. So anybody going after any military establishment, even businesses, is to me a terrorist act. So we as a nation need to be on offense. And to be on offense, you have to have a department that is on offense, which we do not have. So we have to have investment and awareness regards to the scenario, but I'll take it a step further, and businesses are held hostage. So anybody can go and you can get, if you're going to get hacked, you can get hacked. And by saying that, they hold you hostage is they ask for a ransom. And it's happening every day, everywhere. So, and it's smart for terrorists to do that because they would ask for a $5,000 ransom that it's easy for you to pay that to get your code back so you can go back to work than to fight it. So you're right, it's here. It's in the fabric of everything that we do. You just need to be more aware of it because right now it's we're not talking about it enough. We need to talk about it more.
So you mentioned a department. Would you think about having a department in the federal government that was strictly allocated with their mandate for cyber defense for the grid and businesses? I mean, the military have their own cyber people and everything else like that. That much I do know, so I know somebody that's involved with that, but not necessarily so for business or, like you said, the grid. The grid worries me as well.
Yes.
You know?
So my standpoint is right now, U.S. Cybercom is actually a department within all the defenses. So they take a little bit about each one of them. What I'm saying is take that and make its own department. And I think that would be highly funded. I think the issue is they're all funding through their different divisions. I think we take it separate. So we need funding beyond imagination for this scenario. It's because you're dealing with different. We're dealing with our government, so you're dealing with different factions. Whereas if you have your own department, that's where I'm proposing. That's what I want to talk more about. Whereas to business, it should encompass everything in the United States and everything around it. Exactly what you said. But back to the grid is. Yes, the grid is scary. Now, even our military planes today, the F-22s, are very highly sophisticated planes. They can get hacked. So, I say this one standpoint, the older planes are actually better off than the newer planes because they have less computing ability. So that's what I'm saying, and we really need to take heed of it, and I think we really need to take a stronger look at it because they're already embedded in our, I don't even want to go nuclear plants. Nuclear plants are already, all the different departments or companies that work with that utility, they're hacked. So it's that crazy. So we really have to take a really strong approach to it, and basically on the offense. But it really has to be its own department. That's what they do on the offense on every scale.
And never mind the hacking. Look at a lot of times they're hacking to get your business secrets.
Oh yeah.
Which you can spend years and millions on developing a product and everything. And in a couple of minutes of hacking, they've got all the information that you paid millions for, and every other company paid millions for, and you look at some of the large places that have been hacked over the last few years, and they stole information on millions of United States citizens. And, who's there to prevent that?
So my standpoint so let's talk a little bit about economy, and you mentioned about people stealing secrets. I think that's a big problem, and I'll tell you why. The United States is built on innovation and technology.
Right.
If we do not continue to innovate, that is our value in the world. We're the most innovative country the world's ever seen. And if it's easy for China or whoever else to steal our secrets, and we don't innovate beyond that, we're in trouble. So we have to have that security element. We have to be strong against our adversaries in regards to all facets of everything. But we have to continue to innovate. And the perfect example would be if Apple Computer never innovated 30 years ago, the world would be a lot different. And I think we've got to continue with that mentality, is letting companies be innovative and creative, get people in sciences, get people the passion. We have so many people that if we can get them younger and passionate early, the creations that would be unbelievable. So that's where I'm at with regards to our economic development and with everything. Is if we can continue to be creative, innovative, we can do anything in this country.
Okay, now here's a real tough one. Immigration.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
My grandfather was an immigrant from Canada, and here I am running for Congress.
Right.
Legal immigration works. I think merit-based systems work regards to that. E-Verify systems work. We need to be very vigilant regards to our immigration policies. It really has to be done legally. This nation was built on immigrants, and this is why we're here. We love immigrants, but you have to do it legally.
Okay, so you're a strong supporter of the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
How about DACA? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the president's trying. I think we need to have solutions for our DACA children, there's no doubt. And then it has to be safe and reasonable, and I think what's best for all in regards to that. So that's something that it's on the table now, and we have to kind of work diligent on that. It's something that it's dear to every individual in this country.
Okay. Can you think of any other subject that you have a strong opinion on that you would work on if you were elected?
I'm just going to go back to the individual. I think our nation needs to be vigilant, getting the individual very supportive of themselves. I think where this country is because everywhere around, I'm going to go to our opioid crisis and gun violence. If we get people strong about who they are early and passionate about their lives, a lot of these issues that we're having won't come about. And I think it's real important that we put a lot of effort and time into the individual and not top-down approaches. Top-down approaches don't work. We're seeing that now. Healthcare doesn't work when it's top-down. When it's free market-based, it works. Businesses survive with less regulation, with free market scenarios. But let's get to the individual and make the individual own themselves. They need to own who they are and take action with who they are. And then people, when they take action and they move forward, they become better people. And that's where I really want my message to be. Our campaign is about inspiring the individual to be the best they can. If I can make Al walk out of here excited, and it shows when you meet somebody and it shows to the next person, that's what I want to do. And we need more of that. No one wants handouts. People want to get up and do something. Let's show them how to do it versus making them not want to do it. And it takes courage. It takes courage and taking fear and throwing it to the wall. And that's what we should be doing with our individuals. And if I can do anything in my campaign, if I succeed there, I've succeeded in my campaign.
Yeah, I'd like this. I noticed there's been an awful lot of mental health issues
Right.
in a lot of things lately, and I don't know if there's really much that's being done about it.
Because the reasoning being is they're throwing at not the symptoms, but after the action. Because we're a nation of sound bites. We're not right now we're a nation of sound bites. And what's out in front right now is we're going to throw our effort into that. Again, I think it's our youth. Our youth needs, and I'll bring up back. It's the family values. It's people in the family. And right now it's tough right now. You've got a lot of things in families that are diverse. It's mentorship. It's showing people the way. And I think we're all responsible. Every citizen is responsible for their neighbor. I mean, that's the way we need to get back to. And I know we're all busy. Life is difficult. But if we take a moment and find out what's real important, I think we can achieve anything in this nation. This is the greatest nation that's ever been on this nation, and we can do anything we want if we keep it free and keep it positive and keep it inspired.
Sounds awful good to me. Anything else before we close that you can think of?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, it's been a pleasure having you
Al.
on the show.
You bet.
And as I always say when I end the show, I don't care what your political persuasion is, but you have to realize one thing. As an American citizen and a citizen of the state of New Hampshire, there's only one way you really have of making change, and that's making sure you go out and vote. And thank you and goodbye.